Bizarre bug out bag ideology. Hello, my friends. This is the art of prepping. I hope you guys are doing well today. In this video, I'm just going to kind of highlight some things that I've seen on YouTube recently concerning bug out bags. You know, those videos that you can watch that people show off their bug out bags, and you know, they try to just give people some ideas of what to put in their bug out bags, or they're just sharing what they have selected. You know, and for the most part, I think it's a great thing. I think there's a lot of good ideas out there. And I really do appreciate when people take responsibility for themselves and they actually do something proactively to be more prepared. So all that's really good. But with that being said, there are some bizarre things that I've seen that are concerning on a safety level, or just, you know, in a big picture view, that it's just kind of odd or bizarre to see. And I really don't think it's that controversial, you know, what I'm about to say. But there are some people who just believe, though, that these are good ideas. Now, maybe these people have very specific reasoning for doing what they're doing, and they just did not explain it in their video. But I can tell you, though, there's a lot of things that just didn't make sense in the last few videos that I've watched. And it kind of just, it's been on my mind a bit. And so I thought maybe I just mention a few of these things. I'm not going to go through my entire list, but I'm just going to go through the first page. And if you want to, you know, bring up other topics or other concerns in the comment section, feel free to do so. So one of the things I've been seeing is that people use these pre-made hygiene kits. You can get them for men or you can get them for women. I'm not sure if you can get them for kids. I would assume that they probably have pre-made hygiene kits for kids too. But the ones that I've seen are kind of for adults. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but you know, when you start to watch these videos and people start to talk about, well, their hygiene kit doesn't really have what they want or need, then that's a problem. So what I would say is just put together your own hygiene kit. You don't need to pay a premium for someone else to put stuff into a pouch or a bag and sell it to you, especially when they're trying to sell you things that you don't even need or want. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure like why people are doing this, but I've seen it on so many videos now. It's almost like a trending thing that people are doing. So I think that needs to stop, in my opinion. I think it's just ridiculous. But you do whatever you want to do. It's just that if you're not getting the supplies you need, then why are you buying things like this? You know, it just seems really kind of weird and odd, bizarre. Okay, the next thing is excessive amounts of food. You know, I just watched a video and this guy had 12 MREs. I'm not even kidding you. 12 MREs in his bag. They weren't even field stripped. I don't understand that. Like, maybe if the bag was just going to be stored in the vehicle, like if you're going to like bug out in your vehicle, then I can maybe understand that, especially if you have a larger family and you need a lot of food or something. But, you know, seriously, if you're on foot and you're really trying to carry around 12 MREs with all your other stuff, that seems to be kind of crazy, if you ask me. There's a lot of people I've been seeing that they'll show all the contents of the bag, but they have no lighters and they have no matches, but they have ferro rods. It seems like ferro rods are trending right now big time. It's a very popular thing to have, but you know, it's nice to have a lighter too. It's actually quite a bit easier to make flame with a controlled flame with the lighter than a ferro rod. Certainly ferro rods are fine. I mean, I keep them in my kits too, but I typically have 2 to 3 lighters. I have a little stash of like lifeboat matches, and then I have a ferro rod. I mean, that's kind of the main 3 that I keep, you know. And I typically have a few other things too, like a flare and a Fresnel lens and a couple other things. But I'm just saying, like, the main go-to fire starters would start with a lighter. And so don't forget the obvious stuff. There's some people who are trying so hard to put together their kit, to put together their bug out bag, that they forget the real obvious stuff. Another thing I've been seeing is that people are using these emergency water pouches, the little 4-ounce pouches. I just saw one dude, he has 64 of these 4-ounce pouches, but he has no canteen or water bottle. He doesn't even have a water filter. Like, that to me is kind of bizarre, man. Like, what is that all about? I don't know. I just don't think that's the best way to go about it, you know? But at least he has water, so, you know, he gets points for that. There are quite a few people also, you can kind of tell them that they're kind of, a lot of them at least, not all, but there's certainly some people that are really new to all this, and they get this gigantic bag. Now, there are some people that are very well seasoned in preparedness and survival and all this, and that they just have a large family and they have a lot of gear that they need. So that's different. That's fine, especially if you're strong enough to carry it. But there's a lot of people that it's just themselves, and they have these humongous 75 to 85 liter bags full to the brim, and these things are heavy as heck. And some of them will even tell you on their video that they have a hard time even lifting it up, much less carrying it around. So I'm hoping that they're going to keep that in their vehicle, because if they can't even carry it, then it's worthless. So if these people get in a real pinch and they have to leave on foot, they're going to probably have to empty out more than half of their gear. And so why do that? Why put yourself in a situation that you're going to be forcing yourself, when you're already under stress, to dump out half of your contents or more? I think you're just setting yourself up for problems, because you may take out things that you really need and not really pay attention to it because you're under so much stress. Another thing I've been noticing is sewing kits. People are obsessed with sewing kits for their Bugout bags. Have you noticed that as well? A major trend. I mean, it's like a fad right now. People have these oversized, massive sewing kits. Like, I've seen the last 2 videos even had it that I watched. They're like the size of a half of a 3-ring binder. They have like every different button in the world. They have about 20 different types of needles, about every color, every thread color that's available out there. I mean, it's just so over the top. Like, you don't need all that, you know? A little 1-ounce, small little sewing kit. That's the ones I have. They're like really small. You can get them even at the dollar store. And they're super basic, but they're going to get you through. You don't need a massive professional sewing kit. Like, I just don't know what to think about that. I think it's kind of interesting that people are thinking of it like that. I mean, it's better to have all these options than nothing, but in some ways it's just excess bulk and weight, and the likelihood of you really using your sewing kit is kind of low for like a bug out situation. I mean, if you're just going from point A to point B, I don't know. I think you'd be more apt to use tape or glue. So that's another thing that I've noticed. Very few people have duct tape, and very few people have any kind of super glue. And I'll even go so far to say that I saw very few, the last 10 videos, I think only maybe like 2 of them had cordage. So put some good cordage in there. And it doesn't even have to be like parachute cord. It could be some kind of utility cordage, but have some cordage. Okay. The next thing is medical. Very few people, maybe like 2 out of 10 videos, you'll find someone that has a real medical kit. If that. Sometimes it's even worse than that. But I've seen kits. There was one just recently that he had 2 first aid kits. They were more like boo-boo kits with 1 tourniquet, and he has a family of 4. So I'm just thinking to myself, okay, only 1 person is allowed to be injured, and that 1 person can only have 1 injury that would require a tourniquet, because that's all that they have the capability to deal with. So it's just of my opinion and my research that everybody in the family should have 2 tourniquets for them. So every person should have 2 tourniquets. And if you're thinking, oh boy, that's a lot of bulk and weight, or that's expensive to get all those tourniquets. There's different kind of tourniquets than like a cat tourniquet, even though those are really good. They have rats tourniquets. They have SWAT T tourniquet. They have all kinds, and some of them are really small and lightweight and really inexpensive, but they work. So I mean, if you're caught up with like, it has to be military grade or nothing at all, I think that's kind of a failed philosophy. I think you can get things that are not military that still works. I mean, that should be obvious. Okay, candles. Now, this one made me laugh quite a bit, but I just watched a video of a guy with 6 of these very large liquid candles. And I think going from my memory, that was like one of these 140-hour liquid candles, but he had 6 of them. And I would imagine that each of these candles weighed over a pound, easily over a pound, maybe even close to 2 pounds. But he had 6 of these massive liquid candles in his bug out bag. I thought he was joking. I thought he was just going to say, "Oh, I'm just kidding." But it's for real. He really had those in there. And so, wow. I mean, the whole purpose, he said, it was for ambient lighting in their shelter. No, I think the better way to go is to get a diffuser for your handheld light, or to get a diffused, a headlamp that has a diffused setting on it, or maybe a really small compact lantern, right, with diffused light. That's going to make way more sense than carrying 6 large candles. Let's now talk about navigation. So many people have no GPS, no compass. Some of them have local maps or like regional maps, but a lot of them don't. I think maybe between 10 and 20% have maps. And a lot of these people have those road atlas, but they're not for local use, which is kind of a problem. And I see almost no one, less than 10% of the bug out bag videos that I see have topographical maps of their local area. That is a problem, I think. And you also see that these maps are typically not laminated, or they're not protected, or they're not in a map, pouch or case. That's a problem. Okay, so, have the means to know where you're at, have the means to know how to get somewhere if you need to go somewhere. I mean, it should be kind of common sense. But people literally, though, they just think they know where everything is. And if you get pushed outside of your comfort zone and your knowledge base, if you happen to be somewhere that you don't know where you're at, you're going to be in some serious trouble, because you're going to be lost. And to get lost in a bug out is really bad. I mean, that's some serious stuff. Okay, let's move on to the next, and that is huge tools, especially like wood processing tools. Now, it's you could probably justify some of this if you were bugging out in the woods, or if you live in a forest area or something like that. But almost everybody that I've seen live in like an urban, suburban area, but they have these huge, full-size forest axe, huge, oversized, extra large folding saws or bow saws, huge, full-size, military-grade fighting knives. I mean, I'm sorry, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Especially when they tell you straight up that they're just going to move, they're going to just put their bag in the car and drive to the next city over, and that's where they're bugging out. And you're like, you're nowhere even near anywhere that has trees, or you're not going to probably have any reason to use any of this. Now, some of them have said, well, if there's a tree that falls over on the road, they want to have an axe to remove the tree so they can move through. Now, that could be good. But this is my thought. There's nothing wrong with having an axe or a saw and all this. But maybe you just store that as part of your vehicle kit and not part of your bug out bag. That's just kind of a thought. And there's nothing even wrong with having a handsaw, but maybe just something like a Bugout Laplander, just more of a standard size folding saw. That's a lot more practical than these gigantic oversized folding saws or a bow saw. That's just my take. And also on the fighting knife, there's a lot better knives that have better utility, than like a K-bar fighting knife. Even though K-bar says that it's a fighting knife and a utility knife, I have one, and let's just be honest, it's not the best. It doesn't do very much. It doesn't do things very well, in terms of broad spectrum use. It's just probably better for fighting, but there's tons of other knives, like Mora knives, that are really good for general purpose camp and utility. So just through, trial over the years, you'll find out that a lot of these self-defense and fighting blades are not really good for just general task because of the grinds and just how the profile of the blade is. Another thing that I need to mention is these dollar store flashlights. I'm starting to see all these videos pop up, and their primary lights, like their headlamps or their flashlights, they're all using these dollar store lights, like these $1 and $2 lights. And I just have a hard time with that. I'm like, especially when you have kids, and some of these people said that they have kids and they're going to rely for their safety of their family on these $1 and $2 products that are real cheesy. I mean, in the videos, you can even hear sometimes the products kind of like make noises when you touch them, like the plastic is flexing. And I mean, all you would have to do is just drop one of those on concrete a few feet above the ground and you get a broken light. I don't think that's acceptable. It's not robust enough. So spend a few more dollars. I mean, there are so many good budget lights out right now. It's almost insanity not to get one of those. I would not go to the dollar store or go to the flea market and get the cheapest light that they have. It's not good. That is really setting yourself up for problems, because things typically break at the worst time. You'll be in the middle of a very intense situation, bugging out, maybe trying to save the life of your family members, and your light goes out. That's pretty much what happened. It'll be like a bad set of batteries, or it'll just break, whatever. I mean, things happen at the worst time. So get a good quality battery, in your light, and get a good light. And if I was you, I would have extra batteries and I'd have a backup light. And then you're kind of set up so that you have redundancy. But that goes without saying, though, I think. And of course, there's a lot of people who have these dollar store, handheld lights, but no headlamp whatsoever. And I think your primary light for bugging out is going to be a headlamp, and then your backup could be like a handheld light. That's kind of the more of the philosophy that I have. And then if you have the means to carry more, maybe like a really small, like a very compact or mini area light, like a little mini lantern, that could be an option if you have family. Just a couple more things I want to say before I wrap this up. A lot of people don't have a power bank or extra batteries in their kit for anything. I've noticed that quite a bit. You're not guaranteed to be able to make phone calls on your phone during an emergency. Maybe the cell towers are out, but if they are up, it would be great if you had a charge on your phone to make those emergency phone calls. So, these little like battery banks, these little power packs that you can get, I mean, they're not expensive. The price have come way down over the years. You can get some really basic ones between $5 and $10. For $20 now, you can get a pretty nice, name brand battery pack that can charge your phone numerous times. So we're not talking about a big investment here. This is what I've done, though, as I keep a few of them in my bag. In case one gets damaged or whatever happens, you'll have a couple others that you can go back on. The last thing I want to say is this: keep some cash in your bag. The last 10 videos that I watched over the past few months had no cash in their bag, no barter items. Now, some people say, well, barter items is kind of overrated. I don't think so. A few ounces of silver, I think it's smart. Having a few $100s of cash is smart. Now, some people go real far with the barter items, and they have like little flask of whiskey, and they have some packs of cigarettes and, caffeine tablets, because they're thinking, okay, if there's a collapse scenario, all the people who have addictions are going to be really desperate for a fix. And that includes those who, drink a lot of caffeine, and, it could be soft drinks or coffee. It could be those people, once again, that have like a nicotine fix, and you can get nicotine gum even, if it's, if it's something that doesn't require a prescription. I don't really know much about that, but if it doesn't require a prescription, maybe you can get some kind of nicotine gum. Or, if you can't get that, maybe what you do is you get some cigarettes. You just get some they're not going to be very picky, if there's no cigarettes available, but you have some, they'll be able to trade whatever to get those cigarettes. And the same thing for alcohol. There's going to be people that have addictions to alcohol. or that may need alcohol for medicinal purposes. Maybe that, there's people who are suffering, they're in pain. Maybe they would trade a lot for some pain medicine. So I'm just saying, having some of these things could help you get what you need and also help others, to avoid suffering. So just something to think about. And you don't have to go overboard, So, it's an interesting topic. And, I'm learning about all this every day as everybody else is. So I'm not making this video to call anyone out saying, oh, you guys are, completely wacky. But there are some bizarre things that are out there. And I've done some bizarre things too. And I think I've talked about it in the past. I've talked about crazy things that I put in Bugout bags and how heavy they were and all this. So I'm not immune to any of this. But what I can say is that we can avoid a lot of these problems by listening to each other. And there's just no reason to do some of these things on this list that I talked about here today. I think it's just really not necessary. You can cause more problems than not. Okay, so hey, thanks a lot for your support. We'll catch you later.